It's authentic. It's the real thing. And I cannot believe it is sitting in my shop. I really, really want this. I mean, this thing is truly incredible. But tying up $750,000 in one item, it could bankrupt this shop. I have to buy this thing at a price where I can sell it quickly and make a profit.
You'd fire both barrels, and let's say another guy was coming at you, you'd hit this release. This gun was originally manufactured in France, but modified in England.
And after hearing what Sean said, I wanted even more. Because as a guy who loves guns, this is the jackpot.
A bell that dates back to 1602 enters the shop. Unknown to the seller, she might have an item that is worth 10 times more than what she paid for it. And when she told her story about how she got it, Rick was shocked.
So what do we got here?
This is my 1602 Shipwreck Dutch East India Company bell.
Okay. Did you lose this when you're like in the Navy or something? So where'd you get it?
Well, I was traveling in Indonesia and I went into this like little shack shop and this thing was on the floor.
You can just see the look on Rick's face. He's fascinated. But the seller is here to make some money. So now let's get down to business. What did she pay and how much is she looking for?
So how much you pay for it?
Well, $700 cash. And when I got home, I looked up online and saw that this logo, this VOC, was Dutch East India Company.
The Dutch East India Company was the biggest trading company in the world from the 1600s all the way through the 1700s.
Off the rip, there's some suspicion. Is it real or fake? Everything looked real to me, but what could I know? Nonetheless, you know Rick has an expert on speed dial for everything. So let's see what the expert has to say.
Rick, how you doing? Good to see you, man.
Here's the bell.
I assumed that was it. I'm an expert on shipwreck coins and artifacts. I've been diving on shipwrecks for 39 years. There's nothing like salvaging treasure from a sunken Spanish galleon.
Wow, so far so good, but we can't get our hopes up too fast. These fakes can be tricky to spot. All it takes is one thing for the expert to catch, and it's game over. And Rick has some concerns. Let's see what he has to say.
I don't think this thing was in salt water for any period of time to mount to anything.
Well, you're right. 90% of all shipwrecks are in shallow water. In fact, most of them are sticking up. You know, they hit the reef and they pretty much stay there. I'm going to take a guess. It sank. The natives picked it up.
Well then, so his biggest concern was answered. It looks like this bell is the real deal. Now, let's get down to business. What does this expert think this bell is worth? Can this be the deal of a lifetime?
VOC material. I'd lay my reputation on it. I think this could be put into one of the treasure auction catalogs, and they'd probably go somewhere $15,000.
$15,000. What the heck? That's crazy. She just so happened to stumble across the luckiest find of her life. Well, that is, unless Rick ends up robbing her for it. Let's see if they can strike a deal.
How much is it you want for it?
Maybe 11,000?
No, I'm thinking more about 3.
I don't think you'll take 3, will you?
Probably just keep it. Yeah.
I'll just be realistic with you. I will pay you $7,000 cash.
How about 85?
No, I mean, I would go like $7,000.
8,000?
Next up, we have an Indian motorcycle that came into the shop, and Chum and Corey are headed outside to check it out. And trust me, you're going to be shocked at what they walk out to.
This is my Indian motorcycle. Not what I envisioned.
When I heard Mortisyle, I figured we were going to be walking out to an actual motorcycle. I don't know about you, but that completely caught me off guard. There's no way this thing has any sort of value.
So where'd you get this thing, man? Christmas morning, 3 years old. It had training wheels, and I drove this thing to death. You must have been a rock star riding this thing around. It was awesome. I remember the neighbors coming over, and they'd all stand in the window, and I'd just be hauling and racing around.
Man, this is cool, but I don't know what kind of parent would give this to a 3-year-old.
Wait a minute. Did he say he was 3 years old riding this thing? What the heck? What did his dad have him trained to do? Join the X Games or something? Okay, back to the important stuff. There's no way they'll want to buy this, right?
So what year was it again?
73. I think at the time he said he paid close to $500 for it. I've never seen anything like it, and in my opinion, I think it's one of a kind.
It doesn't say Indian on it. It don't look like anything works. I'll tell you what, man, I got a buddy who restores these things. If you want, I can give him a call and have him come down and see if we can make a deal.
All right, here comes the expert. It's time to see if this is worth any real value. If it were me, I wouldn't even call the expert down. But I guess that's why I don't own a pawn shop. Let's see what the expert has to say.
Hey Gus, how you doing?
What's up, man?
Wow, so this is the Mini you told me about.
This is it.
It looks like it's been ridden for a bit. I restore everything from Coke machines to cars. I've only seen a couple of these bikes in person, and they've been at museums. And for one of these to show up at the pawn shop totally blows me away.
Wait, did he say he was blown away by seeing this in person? And And they are even put in museums? Wow. So this might turn out to have some real value. But first, is this a fake or is it the real deal?
So what makes you sure this is the real deal?
Well, I've seen a couple of these, and when you see a bike like this, you don't forget it. When it comes to these minis, they didn't replicate them. So this particular one, with its body style and its tires and its frame, is definitely an Indian.
So how much do these things go for?
Well, I only know of maybe 20 of them in the United States.
Well, that's a lot more than I expected. But the real question is it worth it for Corey and Chum to buy it? And will the seller even agree on a price? It seems like he has some emotion tied to it.
If I don't get $2,000 for this, I've been carrying this thing around for 40 years. If I don't get $2,000 for 40 years...
I mean, realistically, it's going to cost me money to make this thing even to where it's sellable. If you want it, I can offer you about $1,000 for it.
He said there's maybe 20 of these in the entire United States.
A guy brings in an ancient roulette wheel into the shop, and Rick starts taking a look at it. This could be something very interesting and possibly make the seller a lot of money.
So what do we got here, man?
This ancient-looking roulette wheel. Cleaning out my aunt's garage, and we unearthed this.
Okay, so your uncle didn't have like a casino in the garage, or didn't have one of those little speakeasy things where you knock 3 times on the door, some guy opens a little window. So do you know anything about it?
Well then, it is interesting how Rick knows all about this. However, he brought it to the shop for a reason, so let's get down to business. How much does the seller want for it, and could a deal be made?
Did you want to pawn it or sell it?
I was looking to sell it.
And do you know what you want for it?
I was hoping to get like $1,400, $1,500.
Fixed up, it's going to be worth $3,000 or $4,000.
Okay.
Okay? But it's not fixed up. People who buy these things want everything looking perfect. This has to be redone, and all this lettering has to be redone. So, knowing all that, what do you want for it?
Wait. Are they really going to gamble on a price? I guess what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Let's see who wins, the house or the seller.
Come on, baby. It's in red. Daddy needs to take his kids on vacation. Come on, baby. Come on. Yeah! It's my day.
All right. Looks like it's $1,200.
Deal.
This is why I don't gamble. All right, let's do some paperwork.
All right.
Up next, this guy walks into the shop claiming to have a Scottish blade from way back in history. Could the blade really be that old? If that's the case, Rick might be bagging some good money from this item.
I got a couple of Scottish blades here. They were handed down from me from my dad, which was handed down to him from his father. So basically my grandfather.
Okay. So do you know anything about these?
Yes, I've done some research on these online, and found this one's called the dirk, and this is the dagger.
$4,000 was the blade used in some kind of Greek war? That's way too much money. Even the guy trying to sell the blade knows almost nothing about the item. Rick then goes on to school him about the blade.
First off, I can tell you right off, this is a reproduction.
Really?
Yeah, this is not silver. This is really poorly sandcasted all along here.
How can you tell it's not silver?
Because it looks nothing like silver. Look at this. This is silver. Silver is the most reflective metal there is. You can see the difference in color in them. When silver oxidizes, it turns black. This one's already turning green.
Ugh, talk about an individual having a horrible day. This guy right here is going home with a heavy amount of disappointment. Men, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes right now.
I can tell by the markings that this was made in Scotland, has the Scottish thistle mark on it. There's also a Birmingham mark. The lowercase a tells us that this was 1900.
Okay, so what do you think something like this is worth?
Oh wow, looks like the blade is not completely worthless after all. That should wipe away the sad look on this guy's face. The question now is how much is he willing to pay for the blade?
What do you want for it?
Well, I'm thinking probably around $800.
That's not gonna happen.
What do you, maybe $600?
I give you like $400 for it.
That's just too low. Could you do any more than that?
I'll go $500.
$500? That would be the best you could do?
Yeah, not a penny more.
Not a penny more.
A 1948 electric shock machine finds its way into Rick's shop. Having no idea what it was, Rick asked the seller to give some details about the item. Oh, trust me, what this guy said left Rick in total confusion.
Electric shock machine.
Rick, I think you better come see this.
What is this?
Electric shock machine.
Do you ever put it on your head?
I tried it on myself last night just to make sure it did work, and it works.
What does this thing do?
Well, I guess from watching Cuckoo's Nest when they strapped them down.
Is he for real? That looks like something they use in a torture house. How on earth did he even manage to get his hands on something like this? You never really know what's going to walk into the shop now, do you?
To full-blown schizophrenia. And basically what it did is it made life easier for the people taking care of the patient than did anything for the patient most of the time.
Honestly speaking, who would want to buy something like this? If you ask me, I would say this item is very much illegal in some countries. keys. Even though it looked very dangerous, Rick was fascinated by the item.
To the back, and put your head down here for a second. Okay. Set the dial right here. I set the gauges here. Turn the dial to how many milliamps. Then 3, 2, 1, treat.
Joking. You gonna buy it?
I don't know if it's legal to own.
Could you really blame Rick for declining the offer? If I were in his shoes, I would probably do the exact same thing. That item would probably bring him trouble rather than a lot of money, to be honest.
You're welcome. I think this is definitely Rick's loss, you know. I don't have a problem putting this thing on the internet. I'm quite sure I'll get at least $3 grand for it, you know, to the right person.
The next item looked like farm equipment on steroids. A man had his 2006 Yamaha Rhino parked just outside. All the seller wanted to do was get rid of the old Yamaha Rhino and get some cool cash. Was that dream gonna come through?
It's an 06 Yamaha Rhino. It's 4x4, off-road vehicle.
You ever roll it?
No, never rolled it. This thing's pretty badass. Custom rims, it's got extended A-arms, Fox shock, HID headlight. It's even got a mount on it for your MP3 player in case you want to listen to some tunes while you're out on the desert.
Whenever someone brings in an off-road vehicle, I get excited.
You can just see the excitement on Rick's face. He wants that off-road vehicle so bad. Can you really blame him? The vehicle is cool as hell, but let's not get our hopes high just yet.
When I was a kid, the old man used to take me off-roading almost every weekend. And when Corey got old enough, I did the same thing. It's a blast, and I would love to add this one to our fleet. It's a big question. What do you want for it?
Well, I paid $9,000 for it.
Okay.
So I'm looking probably around 8.
He isn't wrong about that. These vehicles can't be as good as they were a couple of years back. The big question now is, are they going to reach an agreement? Because this customer sure knows how to strike a bargain.
But you're asking for a Hyundai price. Razor's about $14,000, so I need at least half to put down. So if you can give me $7,000, we got a deal. One off-roader to another.
All right, I'm probably going to regret it, but $7 grand.
You got a deal.
All right.
Like I said, this customer knows how to strike a bargain. Eventually, they came to an agreement, and Rick bought the bike for a pretty sweet deal. I would love to have an off-road vehicle just like that one.
It wasn't my fault.
I knew I shouldn't have let you drive this thing.
I didn't break it.
My dad's gonna flip, dude. My dad's gonna kill me, and using chum as an excuse?
Oh, Rick is so going to flip out. Ain't no way they are about to tell their dad that they just wrecked his new off-road vehicle. These boys are in some real trouble. Trust me.
I won't start at all. I have no idea what's wrong with this thing. I mean, it could be anything. It could be a spark plug, a fuel line. It could be something really simple. All I know right now is this thing's not working.
Maybe we should call Rick.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea, dude. Let's call my dad and tell him we broke his
Up next, this old man walks into the shop with a lot of stamps. I'm not kidding, all right? He had enough stamps to fill the backseat of a car. But could those stamps really be worth anything to Rick?
I got 5 pounds of stamps I want to sell.
Do you have any Girl Scout cookies?
No.
Rick, come check these stamps out. Believe it or not, he has no cookies.
Because the Boy Scouts don't sell cookies.
Oh.
So, do you know anything about these?
Not a thing. Well,
So you're not prepared this time?
Oh, wow. So he's just been picking up random stamps all these years. These stamps must be worth a lot for him to go through all the stress of collecting them. Why does it feel like Rick does not want to acquire these stamps?
There are stamps that range in value from anywhere from 1 cent to over $1 million. You just never know what you're going to find in a pile like this. These are all like World War II.
No.
This is 1941.
Okay.
This is Third Reich stuff. What makes you think they're valuable?
We were told they were valuable.
Damn. Did he say World War II? These stamps are actually pretty old. But here's the thing. Rick has no idea if they are actually worth anything. Aside from that, there's a high chance the stamps could be fake.
But the suspense is killing me.
There's thousands of stamps to sift through, and examining each one is going to take some time. But at least it's for a good cause. So do you think they're worth anything?
Rick, I looked through all these. I haven't seen anything of value.
None?
They basically are not worth anything at all.
Yeah, ouch. That's going to break the old man's heart. This is why Rick always has an expert on standby to go through these items, because some of them are actually not worth anything at all. Now to break the sad news to the old man.
They're not worth anything.
You mean to tell me there's not $1 million stamp in there?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, recycled paper.
Oh, brother. Well, that's a real disappointment, ladies and gentlemen. I got to tell you, it could have done a lot of good if there had been something here worthwhile. I'm shattered. I would have thought certainly there'd be at least one stamp worth a lot of money.
The next item that walked into the shop happened to be a Taj Mahal sunken treasure. The seller was pretty confident that it was the most expensive item in the entire shop. Let's leave Rick to be the judge of that.
I've got something here that is more valuable than anything I guarantee you've ever seen in this shop. I have a clump of rupees that were minted in 1702 by the son of the man who built the Taj Mahal. Man's name was Muhyiddin Mohammed Aurangzeb Alamgir.
Geez, that sounds so ancient. Even Rick couldn't get the names from the seller's mouth. If you ask me, I would say these clumps of treasure coins are going to be worth a lot. Does Rick feel the same way about the treasure?
So what can you tell me about these?
They were minted in Surat, India. They went to the bottom of the ocean in 1702 and were recovered by Arthur C. Clarke.
Didn't he write a few books about it?
Yeah, he wrote 2 books about it. In fact, before he really started writing heavily about science fiction, he was an avid scuba diver.
Talk about an item having a lot of history. This item fits the description without breaking a sweat. I mean, for Rick to know about the history of the item, best believe that it's something he would want to have in his shop.
So how did you come in possession of them?
Well, I did a documentary with Arthur C. Clarke in 1993. His family consigned it to me, and we've been trying to sell it.
You got paperwork on them, right?
Yes, signed by Arthur C. Clarke.
Everything he's telling me about this adds up with everything I've read. It's authentic.
What? Did he just say too much for his blood? What are clumps of treasure coins made of? The look on Rick's face is just priceless. He doesn't even know if he should ask what the selling price of the item is.
The fact that it's all clumped together now and hasn't been disassembled makes it much more valuable, as I'm sure you understand from some of the things that you
Yeah. So how much you want for it?
I'd like to get $700,000 for it.
It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money because we know the rarity.
I can't believe my ears. Did he just say $700,000? Damn. This seller wasn't kidding when he said the price of the item was too much for his blood. At this point, I'm not sure Rick is still interested in buying the item.
This guy's already told me it didn't meet reserve at auction. I have to buy this thing at a price where I can sell it quickly and make a profit. All I can do now is make an offer.
I want to give you $200,000 for it.
200?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, that's, I can go a little bit more, but it's not going to be much. That's what I could do. I mean, there's some things even too expensive for me.
Well, it's not every day you get to see a seller walk into the shop with a French double-barrel musket coaching gun. Rick wastes no time in taking a look at the time. Looking at the piece, the seller could walk out of the shop with some real money.
So what do we got here?
It's a French double-barrel musket coaching gun.
Damn, this thing's dangerous. So how'd you get this gun?
It belonged to my uncle back in Iowa. He collected weapons and antiques, and about 7 years ago, gave it to me.
Okay. I mean, it's an incredible gun. It really is.
Ooh, high-end stuff. I like the sound of that. But let's not get too excited about the gun with the pointy end. The craftsmen of fake items are also very good at making you believe the item is real.
It's double-barreled. It's got the spring-loaded bayonet. It's beautifully engraved. It is just absolutely incredible.
Some sort of markings along here at Purdue.
I mean, I don't know if that's a town. I don't know if that's a gun maker. I don't know if that's the guy who owned it. It seems to be important since it's actually written in gold.
Everything about this gun checked out to be just fine. But seeing a gold engraving on the item raised an eyebrow. Rick was not going to gamble on the fact that the gun could possibly be a fake.
There's a lot of stuff going on here, and I'm going to try and explain what I'm seeing. My name is Sean, and I'm an expert in antique arms and armor. Right off the bat, examining this gun, I mean, it screamed authenticity. And plus, it being so unique, having a side-by-side flintlock is just so cool to begin with. But then to have the addition of a spring bayonet, that just puts it over the top.
Now, Rick's gun expert walks into the shop to reveal if that gun is authentic or fake. Just by holding the gun, the expert was already fascinated by it. You could even say he wanted to keep the gun to himself.
You know, a good guesstimate in an auction, because this is so unusual, $10,000, absolutely.
All right, thanks for coming in, Sean.
Oh,
I really
absolutely.
appreciate it.
Realistically.
Can you do 6?
I mean, these are auction prices he's talking about.
Well, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking $2,500.
Last but not least, a lady walked into the shop with a 1932 S Washington quarter. She claimed to have had the coin for over 27 years and was finally ready to let go of the ancient artifact. The history behind the coin was so intriguing.
I have a 1932 S quarter, and I've been holding on to it for about 27 years.
So how did you get this thing?
I used to work as a cashier in a grocery store, and that was given to me in change.
So you know anything about the 1932 S quarter?
I do know that the S was made in San Francisco, and they're rare.
Yeah, this is pretty cool.
Ooh, I love the sound of that. I did say that the story behind the coin was quite intriguing. Well, Rick already has the lady excited about the coin, but the big question now is, how much is the coin worth?
This is in incredibly good shape.
That's why I kept it. I was thinking somebody had taken it out of their collection.
Your mint mark looks a little funny. I'm not saying it's fake, but the mint mark doesn't look exactly right. I don't know if this was hit really hard by another coin right on the S there or something like that, which is perfectly fine.
Rick says the mark on the coin is perfectly fine, but the look on the lady's face says something completely different. At this point, she's probably doubting if she's going to make any real money from the coin.
Washington quarter, it's a scarce coin. If it turns out to be authentic, it could be worth up to $1,000. The good news is that it's definitely a genuine 1932 quarter. The news that's not so good is it's probably a counterfeit.
And just like that, this lady's dreams of getting some real money went down the drain. Is Rick going to buy the coin from her, or is she going to go home with absolutely nothing?
The good news is you still got $3 worth of silver here.
It's okay. I'll just hold on to it for another 27 years, and maybe it'll be $5 worth of silver. It's kind of depressing when you've held on to a coin for 27 years to find out you've been holding it for absolutely nothing.